Hi, my name's Donnie. I'm the Executive Director of the United States EMS Compact. And today I want to answer one of the most common questions that our office gets related to the Compact. And that is, what is an EMS agency affiliation requirement and how does that play into the EMS Compact? Let me first back up and say that in most states, and in fact, in almost every state, the EMS agency requirement is, while it's part of the compact, it's also part of state law just working as an EMT or paramedic. See, EMTs and paramedics, while we are licensed to practice, we are typically licensed to practice when we're part of an entity or an agency. And that's how state law is structured in almost every state. And so it's that entity, that EMS agency, that is responsible for some key components of our practice. So for instance, it's the agency that has to provide things like your charting system. They have to make sure that they have HIPAA compliance. It's your EMS agency that handles things like billing. They also provide insurance, not only billing for insurance, but actually the provision of insurance that helps protect you and I as clinicians. It's the EMS agency that has contracts for medical directors, DEA licenses, the ability to buy restricted or prescription-only medications and supplies. And it's also the EMS agency that has to comply with things like, mandatory reporting, although there's certainly clinician-specific elements to that. But it's the EMS agency that really provides all of these wraparound services that as independent clinicians, we don't provide, and we don't have the infrastructure of ourselves to provide or the legal framework in most states. So the EMS Compact Law really makes it clear that as an EMS clinician, to utilize your privilege to practice in another state, you have to be with an EMS agency. Now, let me break down the privilege to practice real quick as a reminder. Under the EMS Compact, if you are licensed as an EMT, paramedic, or a level between, including advanced EMTs, then if you're licensed in any one of the 25 EMS Compact states, then that license under state law is immediately recognized in all the other EMS Compact member states. So simply put, if I'm a paramedic in Texas, my paramedic license is recognized in Virginia or Tennessee, Georgia, North Dakota, South Dakota, and the list goes on and on. Now, when it comes to the EMS agency requirement, the EMS Compact recognizes that different states may define EMS agencies slightly differently. So for the purposes of the Compact, the EMS Compact says if you're with an EMS agency that is authorized in that local state, according to their law, then you're covered. So for instance, if I want to work for an ambulance service in another state, assuming that ambulance service is properly licensed in that state, then the EMS Compact applies. Same thing is true for like first response agencies. I usually tell people, hey, look and say, does this entity look and smell like an EMS agency? Are they hiring EMTs and paramedics on a regular basis? Do they have a medical director? Are they functioning? Are they contributing patient care reports? If so, that's a really good indicator that they're probably a legitimate EMS agency. If you ever have a question about that, you can always call that local state EMS office, and they can certainly help you find a very specific answer. Now, let's talk about some of the non-traditional roles that are being advanced for EMTs and paramedics. And I just want to note, these are fantastic job opportunities for EMTs and paramedics. However, some of these don't fit into the category of an authorized EMS agency or an authorized EMS employer. Let me take a common one. Plasma centers. Plasma centers are hiring EMTs and paramedics all across the country. And hey, that's a great career opportunity. But it's important to note, at least in most states, I encourage you to always check your local state law, but in most states, these are not official EMS entities and they are not hiring officially an EMT or paramedic. You might be hired actually as a phlebotomist or as a medical technician or as a physician extender. You might be operating under direct physician delegated practice as a technician. But in most of these cases, you're not working actually under your EMT or paramedic license. Now, there may be some exceptions in state law, but as a general rule of thumb, that's true. Another area is, for instance, inside hospitals and clinics. Now, in some states like Colorado, they've actually passed legislation that allows you to officially work as an EMT or paramedic inside hospitals and clinics. Now, that hospital or clinic has to do certain things to be in compliance with state law. But in many states, while you might be hired based on your knowledge as a paramedic, you're not working under your state-issued paramedic license in that setting. So neither would a state-issued license be valid, nor would an EMS compact privilege to practice be recognized in that scenario. Again, it all comes down to, as a professional responsibility, you must know your employer and ensure that your employer is actually following the rules and regulations. You can simply do that by asking the employer, hey, are you an authorized EMS agency? Always. If you have any questions, contact your local state EMS office. Now, let's talk about one more scenario that I get frequently, and that is, well, I work for an agency in a state. So let's say, for instance, I work for Bob's Ambulance Service in Indiana, and I am part of a contract for disasters or wildfires or for surge response. And I've been asked as an individual to go to another state, let's say Nevada or Idaho. Well, I am part of Bob's Ambulance Service in Indiana, so I have an agency, right? Well, no, not really, because Bob's Ambulance Service in Indiana is not a licensed and recognized service, most likely, in Wyoming or Nevada or another state. Now, there are certainly some exceptions. There are some large EMS services that are licensed in multiple states. If that's the case, then it's not a problem. But if Bob's Ambulance Service is not actually licensed and recognized as an agency in that state, then yeah, you're affiliated in your home state, but you need to get that affiliation in the remote state where you're practicing. Hey, I hope this has answered your questions. The EMS Compact is a tremendous gift to our profession, and it provides incredible opportunities for lateral transfers, for new job opportunities, for transferring. The key is, hey, once you find the agency you want to work for, be it for a day, a week, a year, or maybe for the rest of your life, hey, affiliate with that agency. Make sure you have a medical director and protocols, and go forth and do great stuff. I hope this has helped. Have a great day.